What happens to an ancient stone city when the last fire goes out and the temperature begins to fall? How did people sleep, keep warm, and survive inside rock walls in the middle of the desert? Tonight, one calm night in ancient Petra. The day has finished its long descent, and the light over the red hills softens into copper and rose. The air grows quieter, not suddenly, but gradually, as if the land itself is exhaling. This is Petra, a city shaped not by noise or haste, but by time, patience, and hands that worked slowly into stone. Petra does not announce itself at night. It simply remains. The cliffs, cut and smoothed centuries ago, hold the day's warmth a little longer than the open desert beyond. Stone remembers heat. This mattered here because nights in the high desert cool quickly, and survival depended on small advantages like this: warm rock, narrow passages, sheltered courtyards. It wasn't luxury. It was continuity. As evening approaches, the city grows inward. Travelers who pass through during the day have settled, animals watered and tethered, sandals removed and placed carefully near doorways carved directly into the rock. The faint smell of dust lingers in the air, mixed with smoke from cooking fires that burn low and steady. There is no rush to extinguish them yet. Fire is comfort but also risk. Too much smoke blackens the ceilings. Too little heat invites the chill. This city once belonged to the Nabataean kingdom, traders who understood movement, waiting, and balance. They knew how to read land and sky, how to store water in dry seasons, how to shape homes where others saw only cliffs. And at night, these skills became most visible, not in monuments, but in routines. A narrow path winds inward through the rock, where the temperature drops by degrees with every step. This is the sick, and as daylight fades, it becomes a place of gentle echoes. Footsteps sound softer here, voices lower without instruction. The walls rise so close together that the sky narrows to a ribbon of darkening blue overhead. Today, a button brings light instantly. Here, light must be prepared. Oil lamps are checked before nightfall, their wicks trimmed, their clay bodies wiped free of dust. Too much oil creates smoke. Too little leaves shadows where work becomes difficult. This balance is learned, not taught. Hands remember it. Near the entrance to a large carved facade, someone pauses. This is Alcazna, though at this hour it is not impressive in the way daylight makes it. Its columns fade into shadow. Its carved figures lose their sharpness. What remains is mass and stillness. The stone absorbs the night rather than reflecting it. Nearby, water jars are moved closer to walls where they stay cooler. The Nabataeans valued water more than ornament, and their channels still guide faint trickles even now. It is easy to forget how deliberate this was. Every drop had to be protected from evaporation, contamination, and theft. The sound of water at night, quiet, reliable, was reassurance. It meant tomorrow would come with less worry. Inside one of the rock-cut dwellings, preparations are unremarkable, and that is exactly the point. Cloth is shaken free of dust. A mat is laid flat. Sandals are turned upside down so scorpions do not hide within them overnight. This is not fear. It is habit. In places like Petra, comfort always exists beside compromise. The air cools further. Stone floors feel colder beneath bare feet, but they are swept clean, which matters. Clean surfaces reflect light better. Less soot, fewer insects. These small things add up over months and years. They are the difference between endurance and exhaustion. Outside, the last colors drain from the sky. The cliffs darken into deep reds and browns, nearly purple in the fading light. The city quiets, not because it sleeps yet, but because nothing urgent remains to be done. And that, too, is a luxury earned slowly through preparation. Tonight in Petra, there is no drama waiting in the dark. Only stone cooling, lamps glowing faintly, and people settling into spaces carved long ago with the expectation that nights would always come and mornings, patiently, would follow. Night in Petra does not arrive all at once. It gathers in layers, first in the narrow places, then in the wider ones. The sick is one of those narrow places, and after sunset it becomes a long, quiet corridor where the last warmth of the day lingers only in the stone itself. The air down here is cooler than the open valley. It smells faintly of dust, of dry rock, and of old smoke that has settled into the pores of the cliffs over countless evenings. A small group moves through the passage with the careful pace of people who know the ground by memory. Their sandals make a soft, scraping sound. It is never loud. The walls seem to drink sound, and even a whisper feels different here, as if it belongs to the stone as much as to the person speaking. One man carries a small oil lamp in a shallow clay dish, shielding the flame with his palm when a draft slides through the canyon. The lamplight is not bright like modern light. It is a warm, trembling circle. It reveals details only close by, smooth grooves where water once ran in controlled channels, darker patches where smoke has touched the rock, occasional niches where someone long ago might have placed a small offering or a tool. The rest remains dim, and that dimness is not frightening. It is simply how night works when light must be made by hand. Here is a small fact that mattered every day. Oil was precious. Whether it came from olives brought in from greener lands, or from other sources traded along caravan routes, it represented stored energy. In a place where darkness was absolute once the sun fell, a little oil in a lamp was the difference between moving safely and sitting still. And so, people learned to stretch it. They kept the wick short. They used lamps only when necessary. They moved close together so one flame could serve more eyes. A little further along, the group pauses where the passage widens just enough to let the sky show itself again. Only a narrow strip, but darker now, sprinkled with the first clear stars. The men do not stop to admire them as something romantic. Stars are practical. They tell time. They tell direction. They tell season. On clear nights, they also tell safety, because cloudless skies often mean the temperature will drop more before morning. The group continues, and the lamp flickers as the air shifts. Petra is not only stone carved into beauty, it is stone carved into shelter. That shelter has its own small costs. In narrow passages, smoke can cling, dampness can hide, cold air can settle. Comfort is always paired with compromise. Even now, as the lamp throws its mild light forward, the man holding it feels warmth on his fingers and coolness on his wrist. Fire and chill side by side. They reach a point where a small channel, cut into the rock, still guides a thin thread of water. It is not dramatic. It is simply there, quiet as a breath. Someone kneels and touches it with 2 fingers, then rubs the water between thumb and forefinger, as if checking its clarity and scent. Water in Petra was never taken for granted. It was stored, guided, protected. And that careful relationship with water continues after dark, because cisterns can be disturbed, jars can be knocked over, lids can be left loose. Every household depends on quiet discipline. A scene shifts now, away from the sick and into a carved doorway where a family has already settled. Inside, the temperature feels steadier. Rock walls, thick and patient, hold the day's heat for a little while longer. It is not warmth like a modern heater. It is the gentle absence of wind, the sense that the air is not changing every second. The interior smells of wool and dust and a little smoke. A woman sits near a low brazier where embers glow faintly, carefully watched. The fire is not built high. A high fire would waste fuel and fill the room with smoke. She uses it the way many people did, as a controlled heat meant for small tasks. She warms a pot of simple food, a grain porridge thickened with whatever was available, perhaps dates or a little honey if the household has it, perhaps only salt and herbs. It is not a feast. It is steady nourishment. Here is another small detail that becomes interesting when thought about quietly. In a place like this, food is often shaped by storage, not by preference. Dried grains travel well. Dried fruit keeps. Salt preserves. Fresh vegetables depend on season and water. Meat appears when animals are slaughtered or when trade brings it, but it is never assumed. It is easy today to open a cupboard and find variety. Here, variety is a rare gift, and routine is the true foundation of comfort. A child lies on a mat near the wall, wrapped in a light blanket. The child listens to the soft sounds of preparation. The scrape of a spoon against a clay bowl, the subtle crackle of embers, the rustle of cloth as someone folds it. The child does not ask for stories of battles or heroes. What is soothing here is sameness, the knowledge that this sound means dinner is coming, that dinner means the body will be calm, that calm means sleep will arrive. In another chamber, not far away, a man checks a wooden latch and shifts a stone that serves as a doorstop. Rock-cut homes do not have doors in the modern sense. They have thresholds that must be guarded against drafts and animals. He listens for a moment. Nothing urgent. Only the occasional distant voice, softened by stone, and the faint clink of a tether as an animal shifts outside. There is always this gentle tension in ancient places. Silence is valuable, but silence is never complete. Somewhere, a dog settles with a sigh. Somewhere, a donkey stamps once, then stills. Somewhere, a lamp is blown out, and for a moment the air smells of warm oil smoke. These sounds and smells are not disturbances. They are proof that life is close by. Back outside, the path opens into a wider space where the monumental facades stand in shadow. In daylight, these carvings appear sharp and grand. At night, they become quieter, almost humble. The carvings fade into dark plains. The columns are felt more than seen. The city's beauty becomes less about detail and more about shape, shelter, and the way stone holds the night like a calm bowl. A small group of travelers, those who arrived late, are guided toward a place to rest. They carry bundles wrapped in cloth. Their faces are tired but not distressed. Travel in this landscape teaches patience. It also teaches economy. People carry only what matters. A spare garment, a skin for water, a few tools, perhaps a small pouch of dried food. And as they walk, they are aware of the same trade-offs that shape every night here. Shelter is cool and safe, but it can be close and smoky. Open air is fresh, but it is cold, and wind can steal warmth quickly. A lamp appears again, moving like a slow star close to the ground. It passes by the base of a carved stair. It reveals a line of dust, then a shallow footprint, then nothing again. It is enough. Inside another dwelling, someone prepares bedding. There is no thick mattress like today. Instead, layers do the work. A woven mat, a folded cloth, a blanket, sometimes a fur if the household has one. The bedding is arranged near the wall where the air is stillest. If a draft creeps in, it is blocked with rolled cloth. These are small engineering decisions, repeated every night, refined by experience. Warmth is not assumed. It is built. The woman by the brazier lifts the pot away from the coals and sets it down. Bowls are filled. Hands gather. A simple meal is eaten slowly, not because anyone is making a point, but because hurried eating is uncomfortable and wasteful. The atmosphere is soft. The firelight makes faces look gentler. Shadows move on the walls like slow waves, and then gradually tasks end. Bowls are wiped clean with a bit of bread or cloth. Water is sipped, not wasted. The lamp is turned lower. Someone murmurs a few words, perhaps gratitude, perhaps habit, perhaps just a quiet acknowledgement that the day has been completed safely. Outside, Petra settles deeper into night. The sick remains cool and still, a stone passage that will be there in the morning exactly as it is now. The cliffs continue to release the day's heat in tiny increments, as if reluctant to let it go. And within the carved chambers, people rest in the way people always have when life is shaped by stone, water, and routine. Slowly, carefully, and without anything urgent left to do. As the city settles more deeply into darkness, attention turns inward, toward the things that must be checked before sleep can truly arrive. In Petra, night is not a pause from responsibility. It is simply a slower phase of it. The most important task, even now, remains water. In one corner of a carved courtyard, a stone cistern rests beneath a low opening. Its edges are worn smooth, not by time alone, but by hands, thousands of them, returning again and again to lift lids, lower jars, test levels. Water here is never loud. It does not rush or splash. It waits. And because it waits, people learn to treat it gently. A man kneels and lifts the stone cover just enough to peer inside. The lamp he carries stays behind him. Light and water do not mix unless necessary. He listens first. The faintest echo tells him how full it is. Sound carries differently in stone containers. A fuller cistern answers more quickly. Tonight, the sound is reassuring. Not abundant, but steady. Enough. This is one of the quiet truths of Petra. Its survival depended less on trade routes and monuments than on patient systems. Rainwater channels cut into rock. Sloped surfaces guiding runoff into storage. Plaster coatings that sealed porous stone. None of this was dramatic, but all of it was essential. Without these systems, the city would have been a memory instead of a place. The lid is set back carefully. Even a small mistake, an uneven cover, a loose edge, could allow evaporation or debris. These details are learned young. Children here grow up understanding that water is not endless. They watch adults measure, ration, and protect it. It becomes part of their sense of time, like the movement of stars or the return of caravans. A shift in scene brings us into a different interior, where the air feels slightly warmer. This room sits deeper in the rock, farther from open passages. The stone walls are darker here, stained from years of lamp smoke. The ceiling curves gently, guiding rising warmth back down rather than letting it escape. This too is intentional. People learned where to carve living spaces, not just for grandeur, but for comfort. Someone is sweeping the floor with a simple bundle of twigs tied together. Dust lifts, then settles. Clean floors matter at night. Dust in the air makes lamps burn poorly and irritates the lungs. It also attracts insects. A few minutes of sweeping now makes the hours of rest easier later. The work is unhurried. There is no reason to rush. Nearby, a bundle of cloth is folded and placed against the wall. These are not decorative textiles. They serve as draft blockers, padding, insulation. At night, cloth becomes architecture. Rolled at the base of an opening, it softens the movement of air. Draped over a niche, it prevents cold stone from leaching warmth. Comfort here is built layer by layer. Here is a gentle contrast worth noticing. Today, temperature is adjusted invisibly. A dial turns. A system hums. In Petra, temperature is negotiated physically. Where you sleep matters. Which wall you face matters. How close you are to the ground matters. Even the direction of your body, toward or away from stone, changes how quickly heat leaves you. These things are learned not from books, but from nights that felt too cold or too restless. In one dwelling, an older woman arranges a small sleeping space for herself slightly higher than the rest, on a raised stone platform. Warm air rises even in still rooms. It is a subtle difference, but one that accumulates over hours. Below, the stone floor grows colder. Above, the air stays just a little kinder. This is not privilege. It is knowledge. Outside again, the city feels different now. Lamps appear less frequently. Where they remain, they glow steadily, not flickering with activity. Shadows stretch long across carved stairways and recessed doors. The monumental facades fade further into abstraction. They become cliffs again, part of the landscape rather than statements of power. A soft breeze moves through an open space, carrying the smell of stone and dry earth. It is not unpleasant. It reminds the body that night has fully arrived. Somewhere, someone pulls a cloak closer, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Nights here can be cool even after warm days. Stone gives back heat slowly, but it does give it back. In another chamber, a family prepares for sleep. They do not lie down all at once. First, lamps are adjusted lower. Then someone checks the entrance, making sure nothing has shifted. A final sip of water is shared. Not too much, no one wants to wake unnecessarily during the night. Even this is considered. Rest is precious when the next day will demand steady energy. The bedding is simple but deliberate. A woven mat lies closest to the stone, creating a thin barrier. Over it, folded cloth adds softness. A blanket covers both. If the night grows colder, another layer can be added. If it grows warm, one can be pulled away. Flexibility matters more than thickness. Heavy bedding traps heat but also air, and stale air can become uncomfortable. Everything here is a balance. A child shifts in size, already half asleep. The sounds of the room fade into a single, low presence, the hum of quiet life continuing. No one speaks now. Words are no longer needed. The routines have done their work. Elsewhere, in a small alcove, a traveler settles in. He arrived late and carries the smell of the road with him. Dust, animal, distance. He lays out his belongings carefully. A water skin placed where it will not roll. Sandals turned on their sides. A small pouch tucked beneath his head. Even strangers here adopt the same habits quickly. The land teaches them. As the night deepens, Petra feels less like a city and more like a series of sheltered breaths held within the cliffs. Stone walls cool gradually. Lamps dim one by one. Fire embers fade to memory. There is no sudden silence, only a thinning of sound until what remains feels almost internal. The listener's own breathing, slow and even. Nothing dramatic happens now. And that is the achievement. The systems hold. The water stays clean. The air stays calm. The stone does what it has always done. And within it, people rest, not because the world is easy, but because, for this night at least, everything necessary has been quietly taken care of. As night settles fully over the city, life in Petra draws even farther inward. The wide spaces, the paths and facades, slowly give way to smaller worlds carved deep into the rock. These inner rooms are not impressive at first glance. They do not rise or gleam. They do not try to catch the eye. And yet, this is where the city truly lives at night. Inside a rock-cut dwelling, the air feels different the moment one steps across the threshold. There is no sudden warmth, no comfort like a modern room offers. Instead, there is stability. The temperature does not change quickly here. The stone walls, thick and ancient, have spent the entire day absorbing heat from the sun. Now, in the quiet of night, they release it slowly, almost reluctantly, as if unwilling to let go. This is one of the quiet advantages of living inside stone. Wood cools quickly, tents breathe with the wind, but rock remembers. It holds the past hours inside itself. People here learned to trust that memory. They built their nights around it. The room is simple. The ceiling curves gently overhead, not high enough to echo, not low enough to feel pressing. Smoke stains darken the stone above where lamps have burned for years, maybe generations. These marks are not cleaned away. They are accepted, even useful. Darkened stone reflects less light, making the glow of a lamp softer, easier on tired eyes. The floor beneath bare feet feels cool but not biting. It has been swept clean earlier in the evening, and the dust now lies settled, no longer floating in the air. Dust matters more than one might think. In lamplit rooms, dust turns light harsh and breathing unpleasant. Clean air makes rest deeper. This is another small lesson learned slowly, night after night. Along one wall, bedding is prepared with care. There is no single object that could be called a bed. Instead, there is a thoughtful arrangement. A woven mat lies closest to the stone, forming a thin barrier. Over it, folded cloth adds softness. A blanket waits on top, heavy enough to trap warmth, light enough to be adjusted if the night changes. Nothing is placed randomly. Everything has a reason. Here is a quiet truth of nights like these. Where you sleep in the room matters. Too close to the entrance and cold air can drift in. Too close to the back wall, and the stone may draw warmth away faster than expected. Experience teaches the right distance. Bodies remember where rest came easiest before. A woman kneels to adjust the layers, pressing them flat with her palms. The stone beneath still carries warmth from the day, and she feels it faintly through the cloth. This warmth will last only a few hours, but those hours matter. Deep sleep often comes early, before the coldest part of night arrives. The goal is not to stay warm forever, only long enough. Nearby, folded garments are placed against a shallow recess in the wall. During the day, they were worn for protection against sun and dust. Now, at night, they serve a second purpose. Rolled and stacked, they block small drafts and add insulation where the stone dips inward. In Petra, clothing is never just clothing. It is part of the architecture. A lamp burns low on a small ledge. This flame is steady, carefully controlled. Too bright, and the oil will be wasted. Too dim, and shadows will strain the eyes. The wick has been trimmed earlier, and now it produces a clean, quiet light. The lamp's warmth touches the hands when someone passes near it, then fades again. Fire here is not central. It is supplemental. This is another gentle contrast worth noticing. In modern rooms, heat fills the space evenly, invisibly. Here, warmth exists in pockets. Near the wall, beneath a blanket, close to another body. Comfort is not a condition of the room. It is a condition of placement. A man settles onto the bedding and leans back against the stone wall, testing it with his shoulder. It is cool now, but not cold. He shifts slightly, placing a folded cloth between himself and the rock. This small adjustment will make the difference between restful sleep and a stiff ache by morning. These movements are quiet, practiced, almost unconscious. Across the room, a child lies already half asleep, breathing slow and deep. Children often fall asleep first here. Their bodies hold warmth more easily. They do not yet anticipate discomfort. Adults learn to plan for it, but children simply rest. The sounds inside the room grow fewer. The lamp crackles softly once, then steadies again. Outside, the wind brushes past the rock face but does not enter. This is another gift of stone. It shelters not only from cold, but from movement. Still air allows warmth to linger. Here is a small, easily missed detail: the ceiling. In many of these rooms, the ceiling is shaped to guide warm air downward rather than letting it gather uselessly overhead. It is not perfect, but it helps. People may not have spoken of physics, but they understood outcomes. Rooms like this were chosen and refined over time because they worked. As bodies settle, breathing begins to synchronize with the quiet of the space. One breath, then another. No one speaks. There is nothing left to decide tonight. The day has already been managed. The water checked, the food eaten, the light adjusted. All that remains is to allow the stone to do what it has always done. The night will grow colder later. That is known. But for now, the stored warmth is enough. And knowing that is calming. Sleep here is not an escape from the environment. It is an agreement with it. Outside, Petra stands still beneath the stars. Inside, within these carved rooms, people rest in the careful comfort of stone, cloth, and habit. The city breathes slowly now, its inner spaces holding onto the last traces of day, releasing them gently, one quiet hour at a time. The moment arrives when nothing more needs to be added to the day. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything essential has been handled. In Petra, this moment does not come with an announcement. It is felt quietly, in the slowing of movements and the softening of attention. Inside a carved room, the lamp is still burning, but it has been turned lower. The flame shrinks, drawing closer to the wick, its light no longer reaching the far edges of the stone. This is intentional. Bright light keeps the mind alert. Dim light invites rest. People here understand this without explanation. The body responds before thought does. A man reaches for the lamp and adjusts it with careful fingers. Oil is precious, and so is darkness used correctly. He watches the flame for a moment, ensuring it remains steady. A wavering flame smokes. Smoke irritates the eyes and lungs. Tonight, the air must stay clean. Clean air allows deeper sleep. Nearby, garments are folded, not hurriedly, but with a slow precision. Cloth is smoothed flat, creases pressed out with the palm. This is not about appearance. Folded fabric traps less air when stacked and is easier to use later as padding or insulation. Here, even tidiness has a practical rhythm. A cloak is rolled and placed at the base of the entrance, where the stone does not quite meet stone. This narrow gap is invisible during the day, but at night it matters. Cold air moves quietly. Blocking it now prevents waking later. Comfort is often achieved before discomfort has a chance to appear. There is a soft brushing sound as dust is swept from a small area near the bedding. Only a little. Enough. No one cleans the entire room at night. That would stir the air and delay rest. Instead, small adjustments are made where the body will be. This focus, only what matters, is part of the ritual. Here is a gentle contrast worth noticing. Today, preparation for sleep often involves distraction. Screens, sound, light that pulls attention outward. In Petra, preparation pulls attention inward. Each small action reduces stimulation rather than adding to it. The result is a mind that grows quieter alongside the room. Water is considered next. A skin is checked, its stopper pressed firmly into place. A sip is taken, not too much. Waking thirsty is unpleasant, but waking to relieve oneself means moving into cooler air. Balance is learned here as well. Bodies are listened to closely, not overridden. A woman adjusts her hair, braiding it loosely so it does not tangle during the night. Loose hair traps heat but can irritate the neck. Braided hair stays warmer and cleaner. These details are not written down anywhere. They are passed through observation and repetition, from one evening to the next. The lamp is turned lower still. Shadows thicken, but they are familiar shadows. The outlines of the room remain clear enough. Stone alcoves appear and fade softly. The room feels smaller now, but not confining. Darkness brings a sense of enclosure, like being held. Outside, the city of Petra has grown almost silent. Not empty, never empty, but settled. Somewhere, a distant sound echoes briefly, then dissolves into stone. No one reacts. It is simply the city adjusting itself the way old structures do. Inside, bedding is given one final adjustment. A blanket is shaken once, gently, then laid back down. Shaking too hard would cool it. A slow movement keeps the warmth where it belongs. The edges are tucked in just enough to hold heat, but not so tight that movement becomes difficult. Warmth and freedom must coexist. A child murmurs and shifts, then stills again. An adult pauses, listening, then resumes their careful movements. Sleep is respected here. It is not interrupted without reason. Quiet is a shared responsibility. Here is another small truth. Silence at night is not the absence of sound, but the absence of unnecessary sound. Breathing, cloth brushing against cloth, the faint crackle of a cooling stone, these are acceptable. They do not demand attention. They allow the mind to drift. The lamp is finally extinguished, not blown out sharply, but covered gently until the flame disappears. The room darkens fully. For a moment, the smell of warm oil lingers, then fades. Darkness here is complete, but not unsettling. Eyes adjust. Shapes disappear. What remains is the feeling of the room. Stone walls surround the sleepers, solid and unmoving. They do not creak or shift. This stability is comforting. In a landscape shaped by wind and sun, stone is dependable. It does not surprise. Bodies settle into their chosen places. One person lies closer to the wall, another closer to the center of the room. Each position has been chosen over time, refined by experience. The floor beneath feels firm, but not hostile. The layers above provide softness enough. Breathing slows, thoughts thin. The body releases the small tensions it carried from the day, the heat, the walking, the careful work of living in stone. Muscles soften. Hands relax. Jaws unclench. Outside, the stars continue their slow movement across the narrow strip of sky visible between cliffs. Inside, time stretches gently. Nothing urgent remains. The rituals have done their work. Sleep in Petra does not arrive suddenly. It settles the way dust settles after sweeping. Quietly, gradually, completely. Sleep in Petra does not look the same for everyone. It settles differently in each body, shaped by age, memory, and the quiet expectations carried into the night. Within the same stone room, children and adults drift into rest along separate paths, each natural, each unforced. The child sleeps first. This is almost always the case. Small bodies hold warmth more easily, and small minds release the day without resistance. The child's breathing deepens quickly, rounding into a slow, steady rhythm. Arms curl inward, feet tuck close to the body. The stone room seems to grow even quieter around this simple, complete rest. Children here do not think about the night ahead. They do not calculate how cold it might become before dawn or how the air might shift. Their sleep is immediate and trusting. The room gives them darkness, stillness, and familiarity, and that is enough. In this way, children remind the space itself what it was carved for: shelter without question. Adults rest differently. An adult lies still for a while before sleep arrives. Not tense, not restless, but attentive. The body listens to the room. It notices the temperature against the skin, the firmness of the floor beneath the mat, the weight of the blanket. There is a gentle mental inventory, done without words. Everything is checked once more, not with urgency, but with care. Breathing slows gradually. One breath stretches into the next. The adult adjusts position slightly, turning just enough to avoid direct contact with the coolest part of the wall. A folded cloth between shoulder and stone softens the exchange of warmth. These movements are small and practiced. They come from nights remembered too clearly, nights that were colder or less settled. Here is a quiet truth. Adults in places like Petra do not fall asleep by accident. They allow sleep to come when the conditions feel right. This is not anxiety. It is familiarity with an environment that rewards attention. The stone walls remain silent and steady. They do not creak the way wooden houses do. This absence of sound is meaningful. It allows the mind to relax without waiting for disruption. The stone has already made its promise for the night. It will not move. Somewhere nearby, a traveler sleeps lightly. Travel teaches a different kind of rest. The body stays closer to the surface of sleep, waking briefly when the air shifts or a distant sound carries through the rock. This is not fear. It is habit. The traveler's breathing changes, pauses, resumes. After a moment, stillness returns. Night in Petra contains these layers of sleep at once. Deep, shallow, and everything between. They overlap without conflict, like different currents in the same quiet pool. At some point, an adult wakes briefly. There is no alarm, no sudden thought. The body simply surfaces. The darkness is complete. The room is exactly as it was before. This reassurance matters. Nothing has changed. No sound demands attention. The adult shifts the blanket slightly, drawing it closer around the shoulders, then settles again. These small awakenings are part of the night's rhythm. They are not interruptions. They are adjustments. The body checks its comfort, makes a correction, and returns to rest. This is sleep as a living process, not a single event. A child stirs once, murmuring softly, then stills. A hand reaches out instinctively, resting against familiar cloth. Reassurance is found in touch rather than sight. Darkness does not frighten when the space itself is known. Here is another gentle contrast with the present. Today, silence can feel empty. Here, silence feels occupied. It holds breath, stone, and memory. It carries the knowledge that others are sleeping nearby, even if unseen. The city rests together, though not crowded. Time passes without measurement. No clock marks the hours. The body keeps its own sense of progression, guided by temperature and breath. As the night deepens, the stone cools further. The stored warmth thins, but does not disappear. Blankets do their work. Bodies curl inward slightly more. Sleep adapts. In another chamber, deeper in the rock, an older person sleeps lightly but comfortably. Age brings a different awareness of the night. Joints prefer warmth. Positions are chosen carefully and changed rarely. Yet the stone room helps. The steadiness reduces strain. The absence of drafts allows rest to come without tension. Somewhere outside, far above the sleeping rooms, the stars continue their slow movement. No one watches them now. They do not need to be watched. They will still be there in the morning. Inside, breathing synchronizes again. One slow pattern echoes another. The room seems to breathe with its occupants, expanding and contracting in feeling, though not in form. This is the quiet success of a well-made shelter. It allows many kinds of sleep to coexist. The night continues without instruction. Children remain deep in rest. Adults drift between awareness and dreaming. Travelers remain alert just enough. All of it is held gently by stone that has done this before countless times. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be fixed. Sleep in all its forms has found its place. As human breathing deepens and movements fade into stillness, Petra does not become empty. Life simply shifts its balance. The night belongs as much to animals as it does to people, and their presence is woven gently into the rhythm of rest. They are not intruders in this space. They are part of its structure. In a sheltered courtyard carved between high stone walls, a donkey stands with its head lowered, one hind leg bent slightly beneath its body. This posture is familiar, comfortable. The animal has worked during the day, carrying water jars, goods, or tools along narrow paths, and now it rests without concern. Stone walls protect it from wind. The ground beneath its hooves is cool but dry. That is enough. Animals here are not kept far away. They are kept close within sound and scent. This closeness brings practical benefits. Body heat lingers in shared spaces. Sounds of animals shifting or breathing become part of the background reassurance of the night. Silence that includes life feels safer than silence that does not. A dog curls near an entrance, nose tucked beneath its tail. Its ears twitch occasionally, responding to distant sounds that human sleepers barely register. This light vigilance does not disturb the room. It adds to its calm. Dogs have shared nights with humans for a very long time, and in Petra, their role is quiet but essential. They listen so others do not have to. Here is a small but important detail. Animals often choose the warmest remaining spots instinctively. A dog will settle where the stone still holds a trace of daytime heat. A donkey will turn its body to shield itself from a draft. Watching them teaches people where warmth lasts longest. Observation becomes knowledge, passed without words. In another part of the city, a pair of goats lie close together near a low rock ledge. Their breath fogs faintly in the cooler air, then disappears. Goats are practical creatures. They do not waste energy. They rest when rest is available. Their presence brings a familiar smell, earthy, animal, grounding. It is not unpleasant. It is the smell of continuity. In Petra, animals are not separated from daily life into distant enclosures. They are companions in routine. Their needs shape the day, feeding, watering, resting, and their calm at night signals that things are in order. A restless animal might mean weather is changing or something is wrong. Tonight, there is no such signal. Inside a nearby chamber, an adult wakes briefly at the sound of a donkey shifting its weight. The sound is slow, familiar. No urgency follows it. The adult turns slightly, reassured rather than disturbed, and sleep returns easily. Familiar sounds anchor rest. There is a gentle contrast here worth noticing. Today, unfamiliar noise often causes alertness. Here, unfamiliar silence would. The presence of animals fills the night with low, predictable sounds, breathing, the soft scrape of hoof on stone, the faint jingle of a tether. These sounds form a kind of lullaby, steady and unchanging. A cat moves along a ledge, nearly invisible in the darkness, places each paw carefully, tail low, body relaxed. Cats know stone. They know balance. It pauses, listens, then curls into a hollow near the wall where warmth lingers longest. It will sleep lightly, waking often, but always returning to rest. Animals also shape the night air. Their warmth subtly affects temperature in enclosed spaces. Their breath adds moisture, preventing the air from becoming too dry. These effects are small, but nights are made of small things. Somewhere farther out, beyond the carved dwellings, the open desert lies quiet and wide. Creatures there move as well, but they remain at a distance. Petra's stone walls mark a boundary between worlds. Inside, the night is contained. Outside, it is vast. The animals within the city belong to the contained night. They know its rules. A traveler sleeping in a shallow alcove becomes aware of a dog settling nearby. The warmth is welcome. The presence is calming. No words are exchanged. None are needed. Sleep deepens again. As hours pass, animals adjust just as people do. A donkey shifts position. A dog stretches, then curls again. A goat nudges closer to another for warmth. These movements are slow and unhurried. They do not break the night's rhythm. They reinforce it. Here is another quiet truth. Shared rest strengthens trust. Animals that sleep calmly among people do so because the environment has proven itself safe night after night. This trust is not abstract. It is earned through consistency, through nights like this one, where nothing goes wrong. The stone continues to cool, but the presence of living bodies slows the change. Warmth lingers a little longer. The night feels held, rather than exposed. Inside the carved rooms, human sleepers remain unaware of most of this. And that is the sign that everything is working. Protection does not announce itself. It simply allows rest to continue. The city breathes as one organism now. Stone, people, animals. Each part supporting the others without effort or thought. The night moves forward, steady and uneventful, exactly as it should. There is a moment in every night when time feels suspended, as if the world has paused between one breath and the next. In Petra, this moment comes well after sleep has settled, when the stored warmth of the day has thinned and the stone has given almost everything it can. The city reaches its quietest depth, a stillness so complete it feels deliberate. This is the coldest part of the night, not sharply cold, not cruel but unmistakably cooler. Stone, now fully released from the sun's memory, holds a steady chill. It does not deepen quickly. It simply remains, patient and unmoving. Bodies respond without waking fully. A shoulder draws inward. A foot finds the warmth of another calf. Blankets are pulled closer by instinct alone. Breathing continues, slow and even. In this hour, breath becomes the most noticeable sound inside the rock-cut rooms. Each exhale warms the small pocket of air around a sleeping face. Each inhale accepts the coolness without resistance. The body adapts the way it always has. Outside, the city is almost entirely dark. No lamps burn now. No voices carry. The carved facades, so commanding in daylight, have disappeared into the cliffs again. They are no longer buildings. They are shapes of shadow against deeper shadow. Petra has returned, briefly, to something close to its original form, stone and sky in quiet agreement. Above the narrow opening of a courtyard, the stars feel sharper at this hour. The sky is clear, stretched wide where the cliffs allow it. The stars do not flicker. They hold steady, distant and unconcerned. No one is watching them now, but their presence still matters. They mark the passing of the night, even when no one is counting. A light breeze moves through higher passages, barely reaching the inner rooms. Where it does reach, it is softened by layers of stone and cloth. Drafts lose their edge before touching skin. This is another quiet success of Petra's design. Exposure is reduced not by force, but by distance and mass. In one chamber, an adult wakes just enough to notice the change in temperature. There is no thought attached to it. The body responds first. A blanket edge is drawn closer. Knees bend slightly. A folded cloth near the wall is nudged into place. Then stillness returns. The mind does not follow the body into wakefulness. Sleep closes again like water settling after a ripple. Children remain deeply asleep. Their breathing does not change. Their warmth holds. The night passes over them without effect. This too is a sign of safety. Deep sleep is not possible in spaces that feel uncertain. Here, the certainty is built into the stone itself. Elsewhere, an animal shifts. A donkey adjusts its stance, hooves scraping softly against the ground. The sound is muted, rounded by distance and rock. It does not echo sharply. It fades quickly, absorbed into the mass of the city. A dog lifts its head once, listens, then rests it again. No alarm follows. The sound belongs. This is the hour when the city feels oldest. Not in appearance, but in sensation. The routines that shaped this moment have been repeated for generations beyond counting. Different names, different faces, the same quiet negotiations with cold, darkness, and rest. The stone remembers them all, not individually, but collectively, in the smoothness of thresholds and the rounding of edges. Here is a gentle contrast worth holding for a moment. Today, the deepest part of night is often filled with artificial hums, electric currents, distant engines, unseen systems working without pause. In Petra, the deepest night contains almost nothing that was not chosen. Silence here is not the absence of life, but the presence of balance. The air inside the rooms feels dense but clean. Smoke has long since settled into the stone. Nothing burns now. The absence of flame allows the room to cool evenly. This evenness matters. Sudden changes wake the body. Gradual change allows sleep to continue. In a traveler's alcove, sleep remains light but steady. The traveler dreams of movement, paths, stone walls, the rhythm of walking, but the dreams are slow, without urgency. Even the mind adapts to the pace of the place. Time moves forward, but it does so gently. There is no signal to mark this hour as special, no bell or call. And yet, this is the hinge of the night, the point after which warmth will slowly begin to return, almost imperceptibly, long before the sun appears. The stone holds firm. The walls do not contract or creak. The floors remain solid beneath resting bodies. This physical reliability allows the mind to let go completely. Nothing needs to be monitored now. Nothing needs to be remembered. Above, the stars continue their slow arc below. Petra rests within itself. The city is not asleep in the way a person sleeps. It is simply still, gathered inward, conserving what it has. This hour passes the way it always has, quietly, without witness, without record. And that is its purpose. In the deepest part of the night, nothing is asked of anyone. Rest is enough. The deepest part of the night passes without announcement. There is no sound to mark it, no clear boundary between one hour and the next. And yet, slowly, the night begins to loosen its hold. Not enough to wake the city, but enough to change the quality of rest. In one stone room, an adult stirs. The movement is small, no more than a shift of weight, a deeper breath, a brief opening of the eyes into darkness. Nothing looks different. The room remains still, but the body senses something subtle. The cold has stopped deepening. The air feels steady rather than descending. This is how the approach of morning is first known here. Eyes close again. Sleep returns easily. These brief awakenings are not interruptions. They are confirmations. The body checks the world, finds it unchanged, and settles back with quiet trust. Nearby, a child turns onto their other side. The blanket slips slightly, then is pulled back instinctively. The movement is smooth, practiced even at such a young age. Sleep deepens again almost immediately. Dreams remain slow and untroubled. In another chamber, deeper in the rock, an older person wakes fully for a moment. Age brings lighter sleep, but also greater calm. The darkness is familiar. The stone walls offer the same steady presence they did hours ago. There is no need to rise yet. The body rests again, waiting. Outside, the air changes almost imperceptibly. The breeze that moved through the higher passages earlier has softened. The wind often does this before dawn, as if pausing. The canyon holds its breath. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once. Just a single note, brief and uncertain. It is not yet morning, only the suggestion of it. No other birds answer. The sound fades into stone and does not return. Animals sense the shift as well. A donkey lifts its head, ears turning slightly. It remains where it is. There is no reason to move yet. A dog stretches, then settles again, nose resting on its paws. Readiness without urgency defines this hour. This is the time when dreams begin to thin. They do not end suddenly. They soften at the edges. Images lose their sharpness. The mind floats closer to waking, but does not cross the threshold. In places like Petra, waking is rarely abrupt. The environment does not demand it. Inside the stone rooms, breathing patterns change subtly. They grow slightly shallower. Bodies prepare without instruction. Muscles loosen rather than tighten. The coming day is not yet a concern, but it is approaching, and the body knows this. A traveler in an alcove wakes fully for the first time since falling asleep. The darkness remains complete, but the feeling of it has shifted. It no longer feels endless. The traveler sits up briefly, listening. No movement follows. Satisfied, they lie back down. There is still time to rest. Here is a gentle contrast worth noticing. Today, waking is often forced by alarms, by light that switches on instantly, by sound that insists. Here, waking is cooperative. The body and the world arrive at it together, slowly, without conflict. Stone walls begin, very faintly, to feel less cold. Not warm, but neutral. This is not the sun's work yet. It is simply the end of cooling. The stone has reached equilibrium, and that steadiness spreads through the rooms. In one chamber, someone reaches for a water skin, takes a small sip, and sets it back down. Hydration before movement makes the coming morning easier. This habit is old and reliable. The movement is quiet enough not to disturb others. The sky above the canyon begins to change in ways no one inside can see yet. Black softens to deep blue. Stars lose a fraction of their sharpness. These changes happen whether they are noticed or not. Inside, sleep continues, but it is lighter now. Dreams give way to simple rest. Bodies lie still, conserving warmth and energy for what will come. There is no hurry to rise. Morning will arrive when it arrives. This hour belongs to no task and no demand. It is the space between rest and waking, held gently by stone and habit. Petra remains quiet, not because it is empty, but because everything is exactly where it needs to be. Nothing is asked of anyone yet, and so once more the city rests, before the day truly begins. When the light is still hesitant and the air remains cool, the mind drifts more easily through memory than through plans. In Petra, this hour belongs to the roads, not the busy movement of caravans, but the quiet remembrance of them. Even in sleep, the city carries the imprint of paths that once converged here, and the bodies resting within the stone seem to sense that history without naming it. A traveler lies awake now, eyes open in the dimness. The stone ceiling above appears almost featureless in the low light, yet it holds meaning. This place was not chosen by chance. It sits where routes met, where goods changed hands, where news arrived slowly from far away. Frankincense, myrrh, spices, textiles, these things once passed through Petra with steady regularity. Not in haste, but in rhythm. Here is a gentle microfact that mattered deeply. Caravans moved at the pace of animals and endurance. Distance was measured in days of water, not in miles. Routes were chosen for shade, for wells, for predictable terrain. Petra thrived because it understood this logic and shaped itself around it. The city did not demand speed. It offered reliability. In the quiet before dawn, these truths surface softly. A dream lingers of walking long, even steps, the sway of a pack animal, the sound of leather and rope moving together. There is no urgency in the dream. Travel here was not a race. It was a sequence of careful decisions, repeated until arrival. Inside a carved room, an older person stirs and smiles faintly, without opening their eyes. Memory moves gently now. Perhaps it is the recollection of a market long ago, the smell of dust mixed with spice, the low murmur of many languages carried on warm air. Perhaps it is simply the feeling of having arrived somewhere safe after many days on the road. The smile fades, not from sadness, but from contentment, and sleep returns. These memories are not dramatic. They do not replay arguments or danger. They recall the ordinary moments that made travel possible. Tightening a strap, sharing water, waiting for heat to soften before moving again. Comfort on the road was always a compromise. Shade versus progress, speed versus safety. That same balance shaped nights in Petra, too. In another chamber, a younger adult wakes briefly, not to thoughts of travel, but to the quiet weight of routine. The body remembers preparing loads, distributing weight evenly so animals would not tire too quickly. Even at rest, hands twitch once, as if adjusting a strap that is no longer there. Then stillness returns. The stone walls hold these memories without judgment. They have listened to countless arrivals and departures. The grooves in thresholds, the smoothness of steps, these are the physical records of movement. People pass. Stone remains, bearing the evidence lightly. Outside, the canyon begins to accept the first faint hint of color. Not sunrise yet, only a thinning of darkness where the sky meets the rock. This change mirrors the inner shift from dream to thought. The world is preparing, but it does not hurry. A small, practical contrast emerges here. Today, travel is often detached from the body, seated, enclosed, insulated. In Petra's time, travel shaped the body directly. Feet hardened, shoulders strengthened, patience deepened. Nights of rest were earned not by exhaustion alone, but by knowing when to stop. Animals sense this change in the air as well. A donkey exhales slowly, then stamps once, softly. The sound echoes faintly and disappears. The animal remembers roads, too, paths worn into muscle memory, pauses near known wells. It does not move yet. The day has not asked for movement. In Petra, the memory of roads is never far from the surface. It lives in the layout of spaces, in the generous courtyards where goods were once set down, in the niches carved for storage rather than ornament. Even at rest, the city feels oriented toward arrival and departure. The traveler who woke earlier now closes their eyes again. There is still time. The road will wait. It always does. Sleep returns, lighter now, carrying images that fade gently at the edges. Dust settling, animals kneeling, hands passing a cup of water without words. As dawn approaches, memory loosens its grip. What remains is a sense of continuity rather than detail. The knowledge that movement and rest belong together. That nights like this one were necessary pauses in long sequences of days. Stone rooms remain quiet. Breathing remains steady. The city holds itself in readiness, not tense, not eager, simply prepared. The roads that once fed Petra with life feel present without demanding attention. They exist as reassurance. Paths connect places, and places provide rest. The light grows a fraction stronger. Still no one rises. The memory of journeys settles back into stone, waiting for another night, another quiet hour, when it can surface again without effort. There is a final stretch of night that belongs neither to sleep nor to waking. It arrives quietly, without a clear edge, and it lingers longer than expected. In Petra, this hour is known not by sound, but by texture, the way the air rests on the skin, the way stone seems less distant, the way breathing feels slightly fuller, as if the body has already begun to prepare. Inside the carved rooms, sleep continues, but it has changed its shape. Dreams have thinned into impressions, color without image, motion without direction. The mind is no longer traveling far. It stays close, hovering gently near the surface. This is rest that knows it will soon give way, and it does so without resistance. An adult opens their eyes and keeps them open this time. The darkness is still complete, yet it no longer feels absolute. The room seems present rather than hidden. Stone walls feel nearer, familiar. The person does not sit up. There is no need. Awareness can remain still. Here is a small, practical truth that mattered. Rising too early wastes warmth. Bodies that leave bedding before the stone has begun to soften again, feel the cold more sharply. People learn to wait, not from instruction, but from experience. The city teaches patience by making haste uncomfortable. A hand reaches out to rest on the floor for a moment. The stone feels cool but not biting. This is new. Earlier, the contact would have pulled warmth away quickly. Now it accepts it. This subtle change is the first true signal of morning's approach. Nearby, a child sighs and stretches, arms extending briefly before settling back into stillness. The movement is loose, unguarded. Children wake in fragments here, stretching, turning, breathing deeply before waking fully. There is no rush to become alert. The day will wait. Outside, the canyon begins to change color in a way that cannot be seen from within the deeper rooms. Black yields to deep blue, then to something softer still. The cliffs hold the last of the night in their shadows, while the sky above grows lighter by degrees. These changes are slow enough to feel continuous, not sudden. A bird calls again, this time twice. The sound is tentative, as if testing the air. Another answers from farther away. The calls do not form a chorus yet. They are simply acknowledgments. The world is still quiet enough to hear them clearly. Animals shift more noticeably now. A donkey steps forward, then stops, as if remembering there is no need to move yet. A dog lifts its head and yawns, stretching its front legs before settling again. Readiness increases, but action does not follow. This is the hour of readiness. Inside one room, someone rolls a blanket back slightly, exposing a forearm to the air. The skin responds without shock. This too is a test, an unconscious one. The result is satisfactory. The blanket remains partly folded back. Small adjustments like this mark the transition toward waking. There is a gentle contrast worth holding here. Today, mornings often begin with information, messages, schedules, sounds that pull attention outward immediately. In Petra, mornings begin with sensation. The body learns the day before the mind does. Awareness spreads from skin to breath to thought in that order. A traveler rises to a seated position now, slowly, so as not to disturb others. The movement is careful, practiced. The stone floor receives their weight without complaint. They pause, listening. The city remains quiet. There is time. The traveler reaches for sandals, turning them upright and checking them with a quick, familiar motion. This habit persists even after many uneventful nights. Stone shelters well, but caution remains a companion. The sandals are set aside again. Not yet. In Petra, this hour once carried particular meaning. Caravans that planned to depart early waited for this light, when the air was still cool but visibility was returning. Water skins were checked, loads adjusted. But no one moved before the signal was clear. The desert rewards timing. Inside the dwellings, lamps remain unlit. There is no need to bring light back yet. Darkness has softened enough to navigate familiar spaces by memory alone. Hands know where walls curve, where ledges begin, where the floor dips slightly. The city is learned intimately, one movement at a time. Breathing across the rooms grows a little deeper, a little more varied. Some sleepers remain fully at rest. Others hover between states. No one is startled awake. This shared gentleness allows the day to begin without strain. Outside, the stone courtyards begin to show faint shapes. Edges appear where there were none before. A threshold becomes visible. A step reveals itself. These are small revelations, but they accumulate quickly. The world is returning piece by piece. A final, quiet microfact surfaces here. Stone cities wake differently than cities of wood or fabric. There is no creaking, no fluttering. The change comes through light and temperature alone. This makes the transition feel smoother, almost seamless. Nothing announces itself loudly. An older person sits up now, back straight, eyes calm. The movement is deliberate, unhurried. The body feels ready. The night has given what it can. Rest has been sufficient. There is no sense of loss as sleep recedes, only completion. The sky above the canyon lightens further. The first true color of morning touches the highest rock faces, unseen by most. That light will travel downward slowly, following the contours of stone. Petra will wake from the top down as it always has. Inside, people remain where they are for a little longer. This last pause belongs to no task. It is simply the end of night, allowed to finish in its own time. The stone holds steady. The air remains calm. The city stands ready, not alert, not tense, just awake enough to receive the day when it arrives. Morning does not enter Petra with sound. It arrives the way light moves across stone. Slowly, patiently, touching one surface at a time. Long before anyone stands or speaks, the city has already begun its transition, guided by the same rhythms that have shaped it for centuries. High above the carved dwellings, the first sunlight reaches the upper cliffs. It warms them gently, drawing out deep reds and muted golds that were hidden during the night. The light does not rush downward. It follows the contours of the rock, tracing ledges and ridges, pausing in shallow hollows before continuing on. Petra wakes from the top down, as if remembering itself layer by layer. Inside the stone rooms, sleepers feel the change before they see it. The air grows subtly lighter, not warmer yet, just different. Less still, more open. Breathing adjusts again, becoming deeper, more deliberate. The night has completed its work. Rest has settled where it was needed. An adult sits up fully now, movements unhurried. There is no stiffness, only a mild awareness of the body's weight returning. Hands rest briefly on the knees. Eyes close for a moment, not to sleep again, but to mark the transition. This pause is important. It separates rest from effort, night from day. A child wakes next, rubbing sleep gently from their eyes. There is no complaint, no resistance. Morning here does not demand immediate action. The child stretches, feet brushing the cool stone floor, then pulls them back onto the mat instinctively. Even now, the body remembers warmth. Animals rise in their own time. A donkey shakes its head once, ears flicking, then stands fully. Hooves meet stone with a familiar sound, solid, grounded. A dog stretches long and slow, spine arching, tail lifting briefly before settling again. These movements are practical and calm. The day will ask for work soon enough. For now, readiness is enough. Outside, courtyards reveal their shapes as light reaches them. Doorways reappear. Steps regain definition. The city looks the same as it did yesterday, and yet subtly renewed. This is the gift of stone and sun. Nothing needs rebuilding overnight. Everything simply waits. Here is a quiet contrast that belongs in this moment. Today, mornings often arrive full of urgency. Lists, signals, noise layered over noise. In Petra, morning arrives empty of instruction. The first light does not tell anyone what to do. It simply allows things to be seen again. A woman moves to the entrance of a dwelling and pauses there, feeling the air with her face and hands. The temperature is cool but welcoming. This is the best hour of the day for movement, before heat returns to the stone paths. She does not step out yet. She observes. Timing matters more than speed. Inside, bedding is folded slowly. Cloth that provided warmth now becomes order. Mats are rolled, blankets shaken once and laid aside. These actions are unremarkable, and that is their strength. Repetition makes them easy. Ease makes mornings gentle. Someone reaches for a water skin and drinks more deeply now. The body welcomes it. Water tastes different in the morning, cooler, cleaner. Even when it is the same water as the night before, it feels renewed. This sensation alone is enough to fully wake the senses. Light enters the deeper rooms at last, thin and indirect. It does not flood. It slides along walls, settles on floors, touches faces softly. Shadows retreat without vanishing. The room remains calm, just clearer. In Petra, mornings once carried quiet coordination. People rose at slightly different times, guided by role, age, and need. No bell announced the day. The desert itself did. The angle of light, the feel of air, the behavior of animals. These signs were enough. A traveler steps outside now, standing still for a moment to take in the canyon. The sky above is pale and wide. The cliffs glow faintly. There is a sense of arrival even without movement. Being here, fully awake, is already a kind of journey completed. Somewhere farther along the paths, another doorway opens. A figure emerges, then another. No one calls out. Greetings can wait. Mornings begin quietly so that the calm of night is not broken too sharply. This continuity matters. Carries rest forward into effort. The city is awake now, but not loud. Sounds remain soft, footsteps, the shifting of loads, the murmur of voices kept low out of habit rather than rule. Fire will be kindled again soon. Food will be prepared. Water will be drawn. But these tasks will unfold gradually, as they always have. Stone, warmed by the returning sun, begins once more to store heat for the night ahead. This cycle is never interrupted. Day prepares night. Night prepares day. Petra exists within this exchange, shaped by it, sustained by it. As the morning settles fully, the last traces of sleep dissolve naturally. There is no abrupt ending, no sharp edge. Rest fades the way darkness did, slowly, without resistance. And for anyone listening now, there is nothing more required. The city has woken. The night has done its work. Everything is in its place. The story does not rush forward. It simply opens into the day, leaving behind the calm of stone, breath, and quiet hours. Still present, still steady, waiting patiently for night to return again. As the morning settles more firmly into the stone, activity in Petra increases just enough to become noticeable. Not busy, not hurried, simply awake. This is the hour when memory and routine overlap, when the city's long history feels closest to daily life. Petra does not separate its past from its present. The way people move, eat, and drink still carries the logic of how this place first came into being. Long before the grand facades were carved, before the city became known to the outside world, this place was valued for one simple reason: control of water and movement. Nomadic groups passed through these valleys because they offered shelter, predictable routes, and rare access to collected rainwater. Over time, those who understood the land best began to stay. These people would become the Nabataean kingdom. They were not conquerors in the usual sense. They did not arrive with armies to seize stone. Instead, they arrived with knowledge: how to read the desert, how to negotiate with distance, how to make dry land useful rather than hostile. Here is an important, often overlooked fact. Petra did not grow outward first. It grew inward. The Nabataeans carved before they built. Stone offered permanence, protection from heat, and insulation against cold nights. Wooden structures decayed quickly in this climate. Tents moved too easily. Rock endured. And so the city took shape not by adding layers, but by removing them. As trade routes expanded, Petra became a meeting point. Caravans carrying frankincense from the south, spices from Arabia, bitumen from the Dead Sea, and textiles from farther east all passed through. But Petra did not depend on constant flow. It depended on storage and timing. Goods were held. Water was conserved. People rested before continuing on. The city prospered by slowing movement, not accelerating it. Morning meals reflect this same philosophy. Inside a carved dwelling, a small fire is kindled carefully. Not large enough to waste fuel, only sufficient to warm food and hands. Breakfast here is not elaborate, but it is reliable. Flatbread made from barley or wheat, baked earlier or reheated on warm stone, forms the base of most meals. Bread travels well. Bread stores energy. Bread lasts. Alongside it, dates appear often. Dry dates keep for long periods and provide sweetness and strength. They are eaten whole or crushed into pastes. Sometimes they are mixed with grain to create a thicker, more sustaining meal. Honey, when available, is used sparingly. It is valued not only for taste, but for preservation. Water is always present, but never wasted. People drink slowly, deliberately. Large gulps are rare. A morning sip refreshes without emptying the skin too quickly. In Petra, water discipline is learned early. Even children understand that water belongs to the day as much as to the moment. Another gentle microfact: wine was known, but not central. When consumed, it was often diluted with water. Strong drink early in the day was impractical in a place that demanded steady movement and clear judgment. Instead, herbal infusions made from local plants were common. Warm, mild, grounding. In a nearby courtyard, a woman prepares a simple porridge. Grain is boiled with water, sometimes with milk from goats if the household has them. The result is plain but nourishing. Food here is designed to support work, not distract from it. Flavor comes second to endurance. As people eat, they do not sit apart. Meals are shared. This is practical, fires are communal, and cooking vessels are heavy. But it is also social. Shared food confirms shared stability. Eating together in the morning signals that the night passed safely, that supplies remain adequate. Here is where Petra's development becomes visible in everyday life. As trade increased, so did variety. Spices appeared not in excess, but in trace amounts. A pinch of something aromatic could transform a simple meal. These spices were not used casually. They were reminders of distance, of connection beyond the stone walls. Some households might add olives brought from greener regions, or cheese pressed from goat's milk. Meat appeared less frequently, often reserved for special days or shared among many. When animals were slaughtered, nothing was wasted. Fat, bone, and sinew all had purpose. The city's design supported this efficiency. Storage rooms carved deep into stone stayed cool. Food spoiled more slowly. Grain bins were protected from moisture. This allowed Petra to support people even when caravans were delayed or seasons turned harsh. As the morning advances, people begin to step fully into the day. Tools are lifted. Loads are adjusted. Conversations remain low and unhurried. No one rushes breakfast. Fuel taken in now will be needed later, when the sun climbs higher and movement becomes more costly. Outside, sunlight now reaches the lower levels of the city. Stone warms again, beginning its daily task of collecting heat. This warmth will be used tonight. The cycle continues. What makes Petra remarkable is not a single monument or moment, but this quiet integration of environment, economy, and daily habit. The city was shaped by people who understood that survival was not about force, but about alignment with stone, with water, with time. As people finish eating and rise, there is no clear division between past and present here. The same bread, the same water, the same careful pacing has sustained generations. The city remains not because it resisted change, but because it absorbed it slowly, thoughtfully. And so the morning continues, not as a beginning filled with urgency, but as a continuation of something already in motion for centuries. As the morning continues to unfold, the city begins to show more of its everyday life. Life not carved for visitors or memory, but for use. Petra was never meant to impress from a distance. It was meant to function, day after day, for people who understood that survival in this landscape depended on cooperation between land, skill, and restraint. The people who shaped the city were the Nabataeans, whose rise was gradual and practical rather than dramatic. The Nabataean kingdom emerged from nomadic roots. Before stone walls and carved facades, they lived by movement, following seasonal routes, managing herds, trading small goods. What changed was not their relationship with the desert, but their decision to anchor themselves within it. One of the most remarkable facts about Petra's development is that it grew without a single obvious founding moment. There was no declaration, no ceremonial beginning. Instead, shelters became permanent. Water systems expanded. Storage rooms multiplied. Over time, paths hardened into streets, and rock-cut rooms deepened into homes, workshops, and communal spaces. Water made this possible. Rainfall in this region was scarce and unpredictable. Yet Petra thrived because its inhabitants learned how to capture nearly every drop that fell. Channels carved into stone guided runoff from cliffs into cisterns. These channels were carefully angled, tested over generations, and repaired constantly. Even a slight crack could mean the loss of precious water through seepage. Here is a quiet but crucial fact. Many of these channels were coated with a waterproof plaster made from lime and ash. This reduced evaporation and contamination. It was not decorative. It was life-saving. The success of Petra depended less on how much rain fell and more on how little was wasted. By mid-morning, people move through the city with purpose. Some head toward storage rooms carved deep into the rock, where grain is kept cool and dry. Others prepare tools for the day's work, repairing channels, tending animals, shaping stone, or preparing goods for trade. Work here is rarely solitary. Tasks overlap, and knowledge is shared informally. Food preparation becomes more visible now. In one open space, flatbread dough is pressed thin and laid onto warm stone surfaces or simple griddles. The bread cooks quickly, forming dark spots where heat touches it most. This bread is eaten fresh when possible, but it is also dried and stored for later use. Dried bread lasts longer and can be softened again with water or broth. Another household prepares lentils, simmered slowly with herbs. Lentils were valued because they stored well and provided strength without requiring large quantities of fuel. Fuel itself, wood, dry dung, brush, was carefully rationed. Fires were built only when needed and kept small. Milk from goats is used soon after milking. Fresh milk spoils quickly in this climate, so it is often turned into yogurt or cheese. Cheese could be dried or salted, extending its usefulness. These processes required patience and attention rather than abundance. Meat appears less often, but when it does, it is treated with respect. Animals are valuable for labor, milk, and trade. Slaughter happens only when necessary or during communal events. When meat is prepared, it is often shared among several households, cooked slowly to make the most of every part. Another interesting detail: spices were used sparingly, not because they were disliked, but because they were valuable. Even small amounts, cumin, coriander, or imported aromatics, were reminders of Petra's place within vast trade networks. A pinch of spice carried the memory of distant lands and long journeys. Markets begin to form as the day progresses. These were not permanent structures in the way modern markets are. They were flexible spaces, courtyards, widened paths, shaded areas, where goods were displayed on cloths or low tables. Pottery, woven items, dried foods, tools, and traded goods changed hands quietly. Bargaining was common, but rarely aggressive. Reputation mattered. People returned to the same traders again and again. Here is another important fact about Petra's growth. Its wealth came not from taxation through force, but from facilitation. The city provided water, rest, and safety. In return, it received goods, services, and influence. This model allowed Petra to prosper without constant expansion or conquest. As the Roman world grew more powerful, Petra adapted rather than resisted. Architectural styles shifted subtly. Some facades became more ornate. New influences appeared. But daily life remained grounded in the same principles: water first, food second, comfort always balanced with conservation. By late morning, the stone pathways are warm underfoot. Shadows shorten. People adjust their schedules accordingly, completing heavier work earlier and reserving the hottest hours for rest or indoor tasks. This rhythm is not imposed. It is learned. Children move freely now, helping with small tasks, carrying water cups, watching animals. Learning happens through observation rather than instruction. A child who grows up here understands stone, heat, and water long before they understand words for them. The city breathes with this activity, never strained, never hurried. Petra does not need to prove its importance. The strength lies in its continuity. As food is eaten, water shared, and work begun, the memory of night fades completely. Yet the night's influence remains in rested bodies, in careful pacing, in the stone that has already begun to store warmth again. This is how Petra endured. Not through spectacle, but through thousands of mornings like this one, where people ate simply, worked thoughtfully, and lived in quiet partnership with the land that held them. As the day advances and the sun climbs higher, Petra reveals another quiet truth. Cities, like people, are not defined by a single moment, but by how they respond to change. Petra did not remain frozen in the time of its greatest wealth. It adapted, slowly and carefully, carrying its habits forward even as the world around it shifted. By the 1st century of the Common Era, Petra had become widely known beyond its desert setting. Caravans spoke of it as a place where water could be trusted and rest could be found. This reputation drew attention from powerful neighbors, including the expanding Roman world. Eventually, Petra became part of the Roman sphere, not through violent destruction but through gradual incorporation. Here is an important and often misunderstood fact. Roman influence did not erase Nabataean life overnight. Instead, it layered itself gently on top. New architectural styles appeared: columns, theaters, paved streets, but the underlying logic of the city remained the same. Water systems continued to function as they always had. Rock-cut homes remained in use. Daily routines did not suddenly change. The Great Theater carved into the stone is a good example. It reflects Roman tastes in public gathering and performance, yet it was carved using the same techniques Nabataean builders had always employed. Even entertainment adapted to the landscape rather than reshaping it entirely. The stone dictated what was possible. People continued to eat much as they had before. Bread remained the foundation of meals. Grain was still ground by hand, still mixed with water, still baked quickly to conserve fuel. Dates, lentils, olives, and dairy continued to provide reliable nourishment. What changed was access. Roman trade networks expanded the variety of goods available, though only modestly for most people. A few more spices, a little more wine, some imported pottery, but these were additions, not replacements. Wine deserves special attention here. Under Roman influence, wine became slightly more common, especially in communal or ceremonial settings, but it was still rarely consumed in large quantities. Transporting liquid through desert terrain was costly, and water remained more precious than wine. When wine was used, it was often diluted and shared. Water discipline never relaxed. Even under Roman administration, Petra's survival depended on Nabataean engineering. The cisterns, channels, and plaster linings continued to be maintained by local knowledge. Roman officials might have admired the system, but they did not replace it. They relied on it. As centuries passed, Petra entered another phase, one of quiet persistence rather than prominence. Trade routes shifted. Maritime routes reduced the importance of overland caravans. Wealth flowed elsewhere, but Petra did not vanish. It simply became smaller, more inward-looking. This is another subtle fact worth noticing. Petra was never abandoned all at once. People continued to live among the stone dwellings for generations. They reused spaces, adapted rooms, simplified lives. Grand facades faded into the background, becoming part of the landscape rather than symbols of status. Food became even more local. Diets narrowed but remained sufficient. People relied more heavily on what could be grown, herded, or stored nearby. Simplicity increased, but hunger did not necessarily follow. The city's systems were resilient enough to support smaller populations comfortably. Under Byzantine influence, new religious practices appeared. Small churches were built. Mosaics were laid in some areas, their colors bright against stone. Yet even these changes respected the environment. Buildings followed the contours of rock. Floors were insulated against cold stone beneath. Life remained practical. Morning routines in this later Petra would still feel familiar to earlier inhabitants. Water drawn carefully, bread prepared early, work adjusted to heat, rest taken during the hottest hours, children learning by watching, animals kept close. These patterns outlasted empires. Here is a gentle but powerful contrast with the modern world. Today, when systems fail or trade shifts, cities often collapse quickly. Petra endured because it was never dependent on speed or excess. It was built for patience. Its people understood limits and planned within them. Eventually, even small populations moved on. Earthquakes damaged channels and buildings. Without constant maintenance, water systems suffered. Life became harder. Petra slipped into quiet obscurity, known mainly to local communities and travelers who still recognized the shelter it offered. Yet the city never truly died. The stone remained. The channels remained visible. The logic of the place stayed intact, waiting. When Petra was rediscovered by the wider world centuries later, it was not rebuilt from nothing. It was recognized. Its story was read from the rock itself. As the sun now stands higher and the city hums softly with imagined life, it becomes clear that Petra's greatest achievement was not its wealth or its beauty. It was its understanding of how to live well within limits. People here ate what sustained them. They drank what they could protect. They built what would last. They rested when rest was needed. They allowed change without surrendering balance. And so, as this story settles, there is nothing dramatic left to tell. The city has shown itself fully, not as a ruin, but as a long, patient conversation between people and stone. For anyone listening now, the lesson is not one of loss, but of continuity. Petra reminds us that calm, thoughtful living can outlast power, and that places shaped for human rhythm leave echoes long after the last footsteps fade. The stone still holds warmth, the channels still remember water, and the quiet life once lived here continues, softly, in the imagination, steady enough to follow you gently into rest once more.